does a drone show pilot actually do?
The pilot's job in the show is mainly to organize the whole process and break down every little detail to the atomic level, to understand how all of it, like a huge mechanism, can work together and put on a beautiful show in the sky, both from a safety perspective and for the audience. You could say we're the main bosses of everything beautiful in the sky.
How do you control drones?
First, I want to say that a drone show pilot does not control the drone with a remote in their hands. You have to understand that a large number of drones can only be coordinated thanks to software. That's the most important thing to remember. We work on the principle that all the drones fly according to their programming. A drone show is organized in such a way that the animation is first prepared by the animation department. They, in turn, work their magic, creating beautiful images, stunning transitions, and adding little tricks and effects.
What's the difference between a drone show pilot and a regular drone operator?
The main thing is that a regular drone operator always flies just one drone. They have a controller, and they use it as their main tool. Our tool, on the other hand, is a laptop and a base station, which sends out additional corrections to ensure the drone's accuracy, and of course, the drones themselves. In reality, the only thing we have in common is that we work with drones. We handle the setup, that is, we fully prepare all the drones, we perform technical maintenance, we oversee all these processes, and we manage the uploading of specific files into the drones. We oversee the entire testing component, and we monitor the signal, mainly between us and the drones. We know where something needs to be improved, where things can be adapted for specific conditions, and so on. And overall, our tasks are different from theirs, because if you look at regular UAV operators, their jobs are either filming or some kind of construction work. But our work is more event-based. We're considered the cherry on top that everyone wants to see, that everyone wants to enjoy, and, so to speak, to put the final touch on the whole performance.
What is the hardest part of the job?
Launching the show isn't even the hardest part of being a pilot. The hardest part is setting everything up and preparing in advance. Because every situation is different, and so are all the conditions everywhere. And every time you arrive at a new project, you dive into a whole new world where you have to adapt to different conditions and figure out how to make everything as safe and beautiful as possible for the audience.
How do you prepare for a show?
The main tasks are to thoroughly gather and accurately figure out precisely what specific equipment is absolutely required, and which particular drones will be sent, because there are indeed different modifications available. So you just need to make sure that the whole process of sending the drones to the launch site goes smoothly, and that you have everything under control. You need to assess the condition of the drones, figure out how many there are and in which modifications, gather all the necessary additional equipment, and basically stay in touch with the manager and respond to any questions they have, because clients can have all sorts of requests. You just need to keep everything under control and always be available.
What is a pipeline behind organizing a show?
When we arrive at the site, the main process begins, the preparation. We meticulously start our technical work from our unique perspective. We thoroughly analyze the entire site, precisely figure out where and exactly how to set things up, determining where everything should gracefully fly, and at what optimal altitude. And the final stage is simply to launch the show, enjoy those 13 minutes, and say, guys, we all did a great job. After the launch, you just need to collect all the drones, fill out all the necessary shipping documents, and write up the required reports about how the whole process went, so that even the smallest, process can get better in the future.
What kinds of drones are used in shows?
One of the things we are most incredibly proud of within our company is that all of the amazing drones flying in our spectacular shows are exclusively made by us. We actually have a huge fleet, and of course, it all depends on the specific task. If it's a commercial project, then the drones all arrive completely ready to go, fully set up, so all we truly have to do is carefully check them, service them on site if there are any minor issues, like with the propellers or something similar, run some essential test flights, and then be absolutely ready for the commercial launch.
Do you build or program them yourself?
Sometimes I assemble them myself. It all depends on the case, because if it's an inspection, meaning you need to check out the location and figure out if you can actually put on a show there, then we prepare the drones ourselves. We fully assemble them and test each one ourselves.
Do you need a license to do this job?
To work as a pilot, you actually need quite a few certificates. Each country has its own requirements. We can go to a particular country for training, do some specialized training sessions as needed. For example, when we got a request to do a show in South Africa, we went directly to Africa, and honestly, that was one of the toughest training and certification experiences, because we had to go through all the selection stages just like real pilots. We trained for 2 weeks, every day. We arrived at 8 in the morning and finished at 4 in the afternoon. They taught us about the structure of airplanes. Honestly, I feel like after Africa, I could even fly a plane myself. Every country does things a little differently, but in any case, you have to understand that nowadays, everything is ruled by documents and certifications. And without them, of course, you can't go anywhere these days.
What tools, software, or controllers do you use?
Actually, our primary, most essential, and crucial tool for all our operations is indeed the laptop. Thanks to it, we have all the software programs developed by our company that we work with that allow us to effectively interact with the drones, download information from them, analyze it, and check the signal quality. The laptop is truly our very best friend. As for the controllers, we don't really use them much anymore because now these controllers are just a backup channel for essential safety purposes. Our drone technology has advanced so much that having a physical controller, or even being able to manually fly a drone, isn't really a significant benchmark for working in a professional drone show anymore. And it's not something you absolutely need to get hired for such roles.
What was the most difficult thing for you at the start?
For me, probably the hardest thing at the very beginning was just understanding how drones work, because it was something completely new and unfamiliar to me. I mean, how does a drone even fly and manage to hold its position? And honestly, I would just go up to the guys and say, look, guys, I really don't get it. Like, could you explain this to me in a bit more detail? So really, if you break everything down and organize the process properly, then everything actually starts coming together quickly, like a puzzle, and you get up to speed with all the processes fast.
What skills are important for a drone show pilot?
I would say the main skill is responsibility. If you're not responsible, then the people around you won't be responsible either. Everything starts with that. Secondly, I would point out resourcefulness. You need to be able to adapt and always find solutions in situations, even when it seems like there aren't any. And third, I'd mention having an easygoing attitude. If you take everything too hard, if every little thing irritates you, I'm afraid drones aren't for you. But if you can take things around you lightly and not take them to heart, just keep moving forward, then you will fit in perfectly.
Do you need to know coding, electronics?
Yes, you do, definitely. But again, these are all things that can easily come to you during your training and as you start to understand the processes. I have good knowledge now, but honestly, in any field you can go so deep. Of course, you will certainly need this, but these are all valuable skills you can indeed learn and truly develop in yourself, and figure out what truly suits you best. Because, after all, we have a team of people first and foremost, and every person has their own strengths, so everyone can develop their own strong side. We have guys who are really good at programming, adapting code for drones, and configuring parameters. There are also people who are very strong in understanding and analyzing animation. There are people who are good at organization, meaning setting up processes. And what we really like is that we have a wide range of areas you can join, whichever camp suits you best, and you can grow there. And everyone will be happy that you're developing your strengths. But you shouldn't forget about your weaknesses either. So we always have a mix going on. On some projects, we're often mixed into pilot teams so that we can always learn from each other, teach each other our strengths, and help each other improve our weaknesses.
Are there training programs for drone show pilots?
Right now, to work as a drone show pilot, you don't really need any specialized education because the field is so new and everything is still being developed. I've heard that in some countries they're already trying to implement this, and honestly, that's exactly the right approach to take. But right now is exactly the time when you can use this to your advantage. Even without a specialized education, you can still come in and learn. Honestly, our story, and the stories of beginner drone show pilots these days, have been written with blood and sweat, just like any field that starts at a certain point in time. But again, in some regions, all they asked for is proof that you've graduated, that you have a higher education degree. No one is asking for a specialized one yet.
Do you just press start to launch drones?
Well, the launch mechanics are actually very simple. You just launch the drones with a button, and they start taking off. But there are a few pitfalls you need to be aware of. There are different levels of events, and sometimes it's not just about pressing the play button, because everything needs to be synchronized. There are lots of variations on how to make sure the music, video, mapping, and drone show are all in sync.
What technologies are used for syncing with other parts of the event?
Actually, the most convenient system for synchronizing during a show is a timecode machine. It's a straightforward system for events. There's a certain box that receives the required time. There's a main person at the event who manages their processes, and they have the ability to send the time to these boxes. To make this work, everything is sent from one device at the same time, so everything is synchronized. For us, this is a simple technology we love working with. A box receives the timing signal. It comes into the box, goes out to the drones. We give the takeoff command, drones take off. That's the simplest scenario. Of course, we can also adapt to other conditions.
What technologies are used for navigation?
If we dig a little deeper into the technical side of how drone flights are actually organized, there are a couple of interesting points. The first is that not a single drone knows about the existence of any other drone. They all operate autonomously and assume they're flying alone simply because each one is programmed with specific coordinates and colors to display at certain moments in time. They fly thanks to navigation systems, meaning we use Baidu and GPS. We also have our main assistant, which is the base station. This is an additional element that helps the drones position themselves even more accurately. So, we have a base station that receives signals from satellites, processes them in a certain way, and then sends a correction to the drones. Thanks to this correction, the drone can understand its position even better. If you fly using only GPS satellites, it would be about as accurate as a regular map. A margin of error of 3 to 5 meters might not matter on maps, but when you're walking, even a meter can be important. That's why we have this additional source of correction, which, together, helps the drone position itself precisely and stay as steady as a rock, showing and performing all its functions accurately.
What happens if something goes wrong midair?
The hardest time for the pilot is during the actual show, because you're constantly under stress, constantly monitoring to make sure everything is going as it should, because there are so many factors that can, so to speak, throw a wrench into the show. So you need to keep everything under control and, if necessary, use certain procedures to make sure that, at the very least, nothing affects people's safety. That's precisely why those crucial 13 minutes of the show are entirely about being fully engaged and diligently monitoring absolutely everything that's happening. If something truly goes off script in the air, you absolutely have to jump right into immediate action and carefully assess the situation. Thanks to certain advanced tools, we can precisely analyze the signal quality in the air and accurately evaluate whether what's happening is actually part of the intended plan or not. And based on that initial information, you make your decision. If it's a matter of just 1 or 2 drones and you realize that it's basically just a certain set of circumstances, like a gust of wind or simply a drone malfunction, then it's better not to do anything. Just keep calm and carry on with your work. But if it's a matter of a truly huge number of drones suddenly flying off in all directions, then you absolutely need to use established protocols. Either land all the drones at once or activate the return to home program immediately. In general, we already have an algorithm that triggers after a certain period of time to land the drones. But in any case, all of this needs to be monitored, configured, and checked, and ultimately, all the responsibility falls on the pilot.
How many drones were used in the biggest show?
The biggest show we've ever done had 9,000 drones. We launched it at the recent Disney Abu Dhabi announcement. It's truly something incredible, especially when before, we used to launch 500, maybe 1,000. But when it's 10 times that amount, it's just overwhelming. That's why you need to set up your process so that not only you, but your whole team has their eyes on everything, and you all work together as a single mechanism. You simply need many people who understand what they need to do and how to pass on all information so everything happens quickly.
How did you become a drone show pilot?
At first, I started as a technician. That's the person who basically handles everything. They take care of a huge amount of work, but it's mostly hands-on. Basically, you're constantly assembling drones, getting all the drone shipments ready, and keeping an eye on everything overall. You have to monitor the condition of all the equipment and just be the pilot's right-hand person, making sure everything is comfortable for them. When I first came to this position, honestly, I didn't even think about moving up anywhere. I just wanted to dive in and contribute something, to play my part in such an interesting story. When I joined the company, they hired 3 technicians at that time, and we were, basically, the first group of young guys, because the drone show itself was just starting to take shape in our company back then. I was lucky enough to jump on that very first train car and set off on this journey. They hired us, and we started going out on the very first projects. I kept getting more and more involved, communicating, and trying to give a part of myself so that it would be noticed, just to show my loyalty and my respect for the work we were doing. And at some point, it started to pay off. Literally, about 3 or 4 months after I got hired, we started the internship phase, learning the skills of piloting. Then, after another 4 months, I was able to launch my first show.
Was it hard to learn?
If you understand why you came here and you have a goal you're striving for, then there's really no such thing as hard or not hard. It's just a series of processes you go through. Maybe it's a bit harder now, but later it'll get easier. Then it might get harder again, and then easier again. That's why I think it all depends solely on the people and what they want. If I take my own example, honestly, I didn't really feel any crazy level of difficulty, simply because I was inspired by what we were doing. And I saw every stage as just another challenge to help me become better. There were guys who joined us who found it difficult. Ultimately, it's all up to the individual.
How do you cooperate with other pilots?
We go to different projects, complete assignments, and come back home. We then start the process again. We also work on developing new products and testing them, so we constantly need to exchange information. It's a more family-like atmosphere, which is why we all hang out and live in the same city. We do the same work, developing, testing, communicating, creating new solutions.
How much can a drone show pilot earn?
The profession is really multifaceted right now. It's in high demand all over the world. So I think the culture is really developing these days, and depending on the location and the level of work, I think a drone show operator can earn, at the entry level, starting from about $1,000. And I think their income can reach up to $10,000, which, in my opinion, really depends on the country, the specific offer, and the company.
How to start a career as a drone show pilot?
If one day you wake up and think, maybe I should become a drone show pilot, actually, you have a lot of options for how to do that. Right now, as I understand it, it's not so much the technical side that matters, but rather a person's desire and their willingness to bring something new. Because the culture as a whole is developing towards becoming bigger and more prominent, and it needs players who contribute something of their own. Right now, every drone show is competing to become unique, one of a kind, and interesting in its own way. And, accordingly, I would even say now that the focus has probably shifted away from those who control everything technically, and more towards those who can bring something new and offer a different perspective.
What are the most common beginner mistakes?
I think probably the most basic mistake beginners make is that they forget they're just at the starting stage. If they make a small mistake somewhere, they're afraid to admit it, don't want to talk about it, and try to solve everything on their own, which only leads to bigger problems. So, it's important to understand that everyone knows this is the beginning, and there's nothing scary about making mistakes. Mistakes are basically the engines of the future. If you make a mistake somewhere, go and ask for help. The drone show community is open. There's nothing wrong with asking your colleagues for help. It's a completely normal process.
What do you love most about your job?
There are so many things I love about my profession, honestly. So many things. It's the people I work with, the ones you fight alongside for a common cause, the ones you create with. It's the people we do this for, the precise moment of the actual launch, and again, rewatching the entire video where you just clearly see people going absolutely crazy over something that, to you, sometimes already feels quite routine. Sometimes it truly touches your very soul, and you just completely melt from profoundly realizing how incredibly important this significant work is, bringing immense happiness into the world.
Was there a moment when you felt really proud of your work?
For me, probably the biggest moment of pride will be when my family can see what I do, see it in all its full glory. Unfortunately, I haven't had that yet, but I feel like at that very moment, I'll feel an overwhelming sense of pride inside. Maybe I'll even get emotional, I don't know, maybe I'll cry. I still have to get there first. Yo, everyone, subscribe to Lumasky. We have the best drone shows. Basically, anything related to shows.